We're constantly living our lives trying to get to some number that somebody made. So think about that for yourself, right? Are you attached to a number that somebody else said was the number that you should be? Right? If we were on the moon or if we were on Mars, the scale would say a whole different thing. And like, would you care then? Like, it's just all constructed in the mind. And everything starts working when your mind actually matches being okay with the body that you have today. And then from there, the crazy behaviors that cause all the weight gain year after year go away. They just go away. You need less and less of it. The shield goes away, but it really requires doing that deep dive. Food and weight obsession can be exhausting. Losing weight, gaining weight, dieting, feeling like a failure because you missed a workout, binged, overate, or gained all the weight back. The cycle is endless and it can be maddening. But I'm here to say you can stop the mental madness. You can take back control of your food behaviors, but you have to face your fears, you have to ask for help, and make a change. I am Leslie M. Thornton, permanent weight loss coach from hpwl.co. This is Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, and I know you can make this happen. On this podcast, you will hear how to stop the mental madness, love your body, trust your food decisions so you can create a life of happiness, freedom, and inner peace. Hi, everyone. Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. Today, we are talking about the myth of BMI. BMI. I remember when I was in that really strict eating program and all that kind of stuff, there was a time when they were talking about your height and weight and how you should be, what was it? Like the French formula or something like that, where it was maybe like 100 pounds for 5 feet. And then it should be just 5 extra pounds for your height. So I'm 5'2". So according to, I think it was called the French formula, someone can let me know if I'm incorrect or something like that. It would be, 5 pounds for each inch. So my ideal weight should be 108 or something like that. It might've even been something smaller where it was, 110. I have 108 on the brain because that was the lowest weight that I got down to, which was very small and interesting. So yes, that was interesting. And it was achievable when I was killing myself and isolating myself and being a perfectionist and feeling the part of myself that was not honoring the fact that I had different desires for the lifestyle that I wanted to have. I really appreciated socializing with friends and family and being able to enjoy events and being able to enjoy a cake on a person's birthday that might be really special, or even a specialty cocktail or something that really just sparked that joy for me, and wasn't able to do that. So that's kind of the sacrifice that we have when we are striving for that. And, if that's a sacrifice that somebody wants to make, that's it. But most of the people that listen to this podcast and that I talk to, the problem is that they know how to do that. They've lost the weight in the past, but they can't do it anymore, or it's not working anymore, or they do it for a few days, but then fall off. And then it's just this painful cycle. So I get that. So different conversation that we're having today versus sacrificing your life to do what I did and have this ideal BMI. So in my years of doing this myself, when it comes to BMI and body shape and image, probably one of the things that stood out to me the most was listening to the work of Byron Katie. And there was one episode where Byron Katie is talking with Oprah Winfrey. on her weight. And all of the world, I think at this point, pretty much knows that Oprah is still working on her weight, and she does Weight Watchers stuff and advertises for that. And she was talking about how she knows that she wasn't the right weight, AKA her BMI was too high. Now, of course, we have doctors and scientists, and here's the French formula or whatever that says this is the right thing according to, I remember even as a kid, 8 years old or whatever, going to the doctors and being like, oh, Leslie's above, what her percentile should be based on her height and weight and all of that kind of stuff. Just these grids that were given, that's just putting us all in this black and white place on how we should weigh and the way that we should look, without factoring in all these other factors. So going back to Byron Katie and Oprah, what Byron Katie was asking her was, are you sure that you are not the right weight for the weight that you need to be right now? Like, can you say with absolute certainty that you are not the right weight today? And yes, according to doctors, according to science, the answer is a resounding yes, I'm absolutely sure. It's like, okay, can you say with absolute certainty that that's the case? And what she was really getting at with Oprah was, who's to say that the weight that you are today isn't the exact weight that you need to be to carry you through this phase of your life? So I'll break it down a little bit. We as human beings go through all different phases and times in our lives, right? We may be in a place in our life where working on increasing our wealth or increasing our career or healing our family relationships or healing our relationships or getting into a new relationship that you really want versus just the one that lands on your lap, right? Or dealing with a divorce or dealing with a breakup, or, right, there's just accelerating your career, getting that promotion. There's different phases that we go through, and they're changing all the time, right? Some chapters last longer, some chapters are just a month or two, some chapters are just a week, right? Regardless of what that is. And during those times, sometimes in order for us to actually achieve that goal, it's like we're kind of like having to rip the Band-Aid off, and like, this is how much I'm willing to do, whatever it takes. So pause for a second, right? Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, weight is a thing for you. And like I started the episode out saying today, right, around how everybody who's here that listens to Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss is basically like, I can do it for a few days and then I fall off, or I binge and then I purge and then I'm perfect and then I'm back. And right, it's just that inconsistency that can drive us absolutely crazy. So consider the fact that if that's happening, and this is what happened to me when I was breaking away from that belief system that I'm a food addict, all of a sudden I wasn't able to go days and days and months of being perfect on this quote unquote diet anymore that was framed as a lifestyle. And so prior to my doing this work like that, it was the most painful time ever, because that's when the mind is like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just stay with this? I've done it in the past. Why can't I do it now? It's because I didn't want to. And because I no longer was buying into that belief anymore. I was evolving as a human being. Thank God. Right? I talk in the past about you have two things. You can choose either growth in your life, or you can choose control. You can choose growth or you can choose control. And I had reached my maximum growth place with that lifestyle thing that I was following. And I was evolving out of it. I was growing out of it. Right. And I'm someone who is all about growth. And all of my clients, they're all about growth, whether they're aware of it or not. And the thing about growth is it's painful. And with that pain causes the mind to start just spiraling out all these thoughts that aren't very nice a lot of times, right? Especially when we come from dieting mentality. It's just not been carved into us that we are whole and complete, and you don't need to fix or change anything, that you're perfect just the way that you are. And because of that, you're always looking for what's wrong and how can I fix myself and how can I change myself? I know this because that was me. That foundation of self-love was not there. Okay. And then what happens is, because that's so challenging and such a high bar to hold for yourself, an expectation for yourself to try and reach all the time, then things come crashing down and you end up binging or isolating yourself and all of these types of habits that don't really work. Okay. So now, because I saw that, I thought about Oprah Winfrey, right? And like the amount of transformational work that she does on this planet, right? Like she has to swing out every day. I don't know how she has the emotional capacity as a, I know she has her, significant other there, but like kind of a single woman, right? And like to have to start her own TV network and all the interviews that she does and like the vulnerability stuff that she has to do, like, wow, that's hard. I can't even imagine, right? What I'm doing is hard, but to be seen by billions of people all over the world and be someone who is going to be like the stand for human beings raising the consciousness of the planet, like, wow, just wow. And I guess, I have empathy towards that because, choosing a life where you're all about consciousness and helping the consciousness, be raised on the planet as well. I know how painful that it is and how stressful that it is. And so during my evolution of coming out of that and of making this decision to start this podcast, right, to get into a relationship that was super fulfilling and in alignment with myself versus, like I said before, just something that lands on my lap, right? Like actually creating this empire that's going to be a major game player, like changer in how people view food, body, and weight. And so that they don't have to suffer the way that I did for as long as I had to, right? It required a fantastic amount of stress and continues to. And so with that stress, of course, there comes for people like us, right? I was just talking to someone who's on my team the other day, and he was like, "For your people, it's food." He's like, "For me, it's television. Like I just numb out. I'm just binge watching Netflix or whatever." Right? So we happen to choose food as that way to numb out. Not wrong or bad. All humans find something to numb out on, right? If it's not one thing, it's the other thing. And even the super thin people that seem like they have it all together, they have something too. Maybe they're taking Ambiens at night or Tylenol PM every night. They have a secret. There's some way that every human being numbs, right? Unless they have a super beautiful way of doing self-care and have done work on themselves. I'm not saying that there is an exception to the rule, but even for myself, where this is obviously a priority for me, there is also that open window of permission and empathy and compassion I have for myself for when I am reaching and using food as a way to numb, or even, having a glass of wine as a way that's like, sometimes that's just, I'm choosing that, right, to take that edge off. And because of that, right, and because I've gotten past a lot of my limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging thoughts and fears, etc., it's a non-issue. I feel like I'm just hanging out with the people that get to enjoy their life every day, right? Like get to have a hot dog and macaroni and cheese, at a barbecue and not think twice about it, just because that's what's happening, that's what we're having. And I want to have that kind of freedom. So I have this infinite faith now that I did not have before, that my body is actually the size that it needs to be to uphold the stress that it takes for me to continue going after what it is that I want. Right. So in the past, when I had this, 110, 108-pound body, at the time, for that period of time, that was the stress that I wanted to endure to be able to have that dream body that I wanted to have. Right. And I took on whatever beliefs that I needed to get that, until I realized that that was not the bee's knees. I get made fun of from my old term slang sometimes, so I hope you're enjoying it. I had a college roommate who was like, "Where do you come up with this stuff?" He wasn't born in the 1950s. I like 1950s, like speakeasy kind of stuff. That's the 1920s. Anyway, I digress. So, right, just having that awareness that it's like, this is, so back when I was doing that, it's like, okay, I was willing to do all the stress that it took. then I started actually binging more because I was so far down the rabbit hole and of believing that I was an addict and, going at all these things that got into my brain. And it took a lot to get out of that. Took a lot to get out of that. But a major part again was when I actually realized that, like, if I'm able to surrender, if I'm able to let go, if I'm able to just work on my emotional mastery, if I'm able to work on my relationships and start healing past things that are within my subconscious that are preventing me from really having all the things that I want to have, right? I'm too aware of the fact, and consider the fact that you're listening to this podcast right now shows, right? We were just talking to a woman last night who is probably going to join the program. And she was saying how, it just drives her crazy because she knows that she can do it, but she can't figure it out. Right. And that's where it was like, I just can't figure this out. It's like, I can't figure out how to but the fact that you're even still trying means that you are going to figure it out. Right? That you will figure it out. Don't give up on yourself. Right. And if you've been listening to this podcast, then come here and figure it out, because I had to figure it out and it was painful and it was hard and it was scary. But this is the place that I recommend that every human being be. Okay. And it starts with letting go of you thinking that you know how anything should be, including BMI. Right. So some of my clients, and it may be you who's watching right now, they have a higher BMI and they've gone through tremendous traumas, right? There's traumas, or there's grief, or there's loss, or, maybe they had a whole bunch of miscarriages, or, right? Like, there major life events happen that as you're on your way to getting what it is that you want, you leaned in, and yes, you used food as a way to help you through that time because you didn't have anything else at that time. Not wrong or bad. And maybe that was exactly what needed to happen that would lead you to even find this podcast today that could just open up everything and change your life. So leaning into that faith. Right. So as I'm on my journey, right, and as the years go by, I'm watching my weight go down after it went up to the highest that it had ever been, because I committed to not doing the diet thing and healing myself from the foundation level up. Right. Of being like, no, we need to get past this stuff. We need to learn how to deal with anger, stop numbing it away with this diet or the protection of this or all this kind of stuff. Like, let's upheave all that stuff. Right. And again, I ate during that time. I was drinking Starbucks lattes like every day and, having all sorts of things. Right. Because I needed that comfort at the time. And I'm not saying that you necessarily need it. Like, that was just my unique path at the time of where I was at. And that's what I needed for comfort. And I gave myself that, and it really helped me. Right. So I'm watching my weight go down and down, and it's cool because it's happening gradually over the years as I'm continuing to commit to this path of doing my inner work, of going after what I want, of being more aware of the negative thoughts that I'm having and not being my own, and learning how to take better care of myself when I have emotions happening around, and increasing and up-leveling my support that I have so that I feel less stress every day that would cause me to eat, right? Like, the different kind of challenge. And I'm seeing that, the weight is the indicator of the fact that I am getting healthier and healthier every day. Right. So as a child, when I'm sitting there in the doctor's office and they're giving me the BMI or sharing it with my mom, we immediately as a society think, okay, well, that means we need to teach her to, like, cut back on eating too many cookies at night. And we need to teach her that she needs to exercise every day. So old school. It's so old school. The first thing that I would think about if that was happening for my child is, maybe this is actually just like what her, like, body type is, right? So maybe because she's so thoughtful, and she's so inquisitive, and she's so, like, a little bit more introverted or inward, right? That, like, this is her way of moving through the world. And maybe, like, the body that little girl is going to move through the world in, right, and even later into life, is a little bit bigger. And what if that's awesome? Like, what if that's okay? So these days, when I look at a human being, right, regardless of what their body shape is, it's just like, okay, like this is how this person gets to move through the world. This is the necessary weight that they need to be at to move through this part of their path. And like, what if that's ebbs and flows is okay? Where it becomes not okay is when that person does not have that peace, right? And you're probably listening right now, and it's like, I don't have that peace. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now. Right. And I can already hear, some of the thoughts of being like, I don't want to be at peace with this weight. Da, da, da. Like that's the mind. Like whatever you're saying as you're listening to me talk right now is the thing there is to get to go to work on. Right. Of that constant chatter in the back that's like, but I don't like this weight and I hate it and I can't control myself and this is bad and this is wrong. But you're pushing against what is. You're pushing against what is. Not wrong or bad, just what's so. Because what is right now is your body is what it is right now. What also is that you have mental chatter about the fact that you don't like that. That's also what is. And aside from that, aside from thoughts and aside from feelings, it's you and I listening together, still breathing, heart still beating, right? Nothing bad happening in this moment. Thank God for that. But we miss that space. We're constantly living our lives trying to get to some number that somebody made, right? So that would be the one thing that I'd think about for that little girl of like, okay, like, and I'm going to observe as the parent, right? If there's anything else like that could be going on. So for example, maybe she's not very talkative and she's not really talking about her emotions a lot, or maybe I'm noticing that like ever since her little sister was born, she's less talkative or, whatever. So maybe I'm going to schedule like a little one-on-one time and like have, create space for that little girl to like have intimate conversations and, right, just getting to be with that. There was a coach that I had in the past, and she had a niece who in like a year, just put on a tremendous amount of weight. And so she had a conversation and just said, not about food and exercise. The conversation was not about that. She was like, tell me what's happening, right? I noticed that your weight has gone up. Like, where did this start? And she ended up breaking down into all these tears and saying, last year these girls bullied me and they basically said that they didn't think that I was good enough or attractive enough or skinny enough or something. And that scarred her so much that, and it caused so much stress that she ended up putting on this tremendous amount of weight. Right. And so when we actually pay attention to the emotional part of the weight gain, right? If you have a bunch of weight, there's been hard things that have happened. There's been times in your life or decisions that were made subconsciously that said, I need to hide, or I'm scared, or I'm not safe to be in the world, or whatever, right? It's in the mind. It's in the subconscious. And when we're not working on that and we're just trying to work on the surface level all day, and you know what I'm talking about, like, do you really want to be thinking about decreasing your food and increasing your exercise anymore? Because that's something that even feels, knowing that it's going to happen and then you're going to lose it maybe, and then it's going to come right back and more. And you're going to keep looking at photographs of yourself from 10 years ago and saying, why was I mad about my body then? I'm way bigger now. Right. And then you're like, wow. And then your whole life is going by you, and all you've done is obsess about your food and body and weight. That sucks. In my opinion, that sucks a lot. So when are we actually going to look at the source of the matter? Right? When are you going to actually look at that source? That's where it gets beautiful, to be honest. It can feel yucky and it can feel really messy and challenging and hard at first, because maybe you've never looked at that stuff. Maybe you have, right? Maybe you've seen the therapist in the past before, and that's great. But this takes it to that, like, catastrophic, super fast level of moving through things fast, 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 not needing to engage in those old stories anymore. And you getting to make that decision, you getting to choose the way that you feel every day, regardless of how much weight is on you. And every single time that we actually make peace with the way that our bodies are today, even though we don't want to, even though it feels impossible and the body hate is real, when you actually make that decision to do it anyway, to force yourself to do that anyway, that's when I know with 100% certainty that when I look back on my photos from 10 years from now and now and now, I'm only going to keep looking better and better and better. I'm not going to be one of those stories that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Will I not get bigger again? Probably will. Might have some babies at some point, right? Like, that's fine. But because I know with 100% certainty that I'm working on the foundation things, I'm working on my emotional mastery, right? Of how to deal with stress better, how to, all the things that we learn at Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, that each year I'm going to get better and better and healthier and probably sexier and sexier. That is my plan, right? And it's like so authentic to me. That is the goal. That's what's possible. But I'm telling you that when my plan was somebody else's plan, when my plan was to be 5'2" and 110 pounds, because that's what the doctor said, heck no. That worked temporarily until all the rebel parts of me came out and said, I want to have fun with my family too. I can't do this anymore. Pretending that I'm perfect and then binging on stuff later and constantly living in my head. I was traveling, backpacking around Australia, New Zealand, and I have journals full of just myself being like, I'm scared. Everybody's eating around me. I can't eat anything. That like madness. Right. And then like telling myself like, okay, like I'm actually, this is this specialty chocolate bar in New Zealand. So I'm going to let myself buy that. And then literally me being up like a squirrel during winter time and opening up this chocolate bar and just binging on that while I'm like, isolated in the thing versus everybody else just being on the bus and right, just eating away, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, there's just no freedom in that. And it kicks back every time when you're not being authentic and when you're not bringing to the table this place of having faith that where you're at is where you're meant to be. I know that seems really hard concept to grasp, but you have this opportunity now to actually take where you're at, to change the course of your future where it won't be one of disappointment. It won't be one of continuous feeling like a failure and that your body is not enough. I can't tell you how attractive it is to meet someone who has just confidence and radiance in the skin that they're in, right? Regardless of what that size is. But then have you ever talked to someone and maybe you're this person and it's not wrong or bad because you haven't gotten this work yet. You're subconsciously asking for this, right? Without taking that action yet. So, but you come to someone and then you're like, wow, that woman looks so put together. She looks really beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And then she starts talking to you and then she immediately says something like, and I hate the way that my body looks, or yeah, but I can't get this weight off no matter what. And it kind of like, it takes her down a little bit. Like you just saw her less in your eyes. You're like, oh, this woman still has incompletions or, problems. Not that she's to be judged for that. It just happens. And it's like, and then the contrast of like, even with Oprah, it's like, this woman's got it all together, but then she's letting the world know. And, thank God for that, because she's being vulnerable, whatever, that it's still an area of incompletion for herself. And she probably needs this program to feel happy and at peace day to day and do the work and have all that kind of stuff. And then again, the weight can come off year after year because you're no longer beating yourself up. You're no longer striving for a goal that your doctor or the scientist made versus what's actually so. I'm big into science and also the awareness of the fact that we're all moving through space and time, right? Like it's all moving particles, like physics, right? It's like all of every hard matter, like everything that has matter, like concrete that we can feel, it's still moving particles at super fast paces that give us the impression of solid, but it's really not. It's just like, right? And so I visualized it as I'm thinking about all of us moving through the planet, is like, in order for us to move at the pace and speed that we need, we either pick up more to like add that weight down for ourselves because it's that energy that we need, or we feel we're shedding off the layers and maybe we can move faster. And there's some people who move faster than other people, right? And because of that, or the phase of life that they're in, their weight's going to be smaller. Right. And then there's some people who like, they're here to like ground humanity and, be that rock and that anchor for the family or whatever. And like their bigger weight is serving their purpose. Right. So just having that awareness of like, okay, like right now in my life, my body's calling for heavier foods, or it's calling for lighter foods, or, oh, that's interesting. Right. It's just this dance that we get to do when we when we change our mindset, when we start viewing this world in this different way. It's awesome. I can't say it enough. It's really, really awesome. So think about that for yourself, right? Are you attached to a number that somebody else said was the number that you should be? Right? If we were on the moon or if we were on Mars, the scale would say a whole different thing. And like, would you care then? Like, it's just all constructed in the mind, and everything starts working when your mind actually matches being okay with the body that you have today. And then from there, the crazy behaviors that cause all the weight gain year after year go away. They just go away. You need less and less of it. The shield goes away, but it really requires doing that deep dive. Right. There is no other program like the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss program. I know that my clients could be a testament to that, of doing the deep somatic work, right? Of getting the emotional mastery tools that you can practice on your own day to day, of understanding where it's coming from with your family background and what stories are yours versus what stories are not yours. Right? Getting the hypnosis that actually allows for that mental detachment to happen from food so that it's not something that you're crazy about anymore. And to start actually thinking thoughts that are serving you in your life on a regular basis. What would it be like for you if you could have that in just a couple months' time? That's it. People are completely free from food in 2 weeks, sometimes 1 week of doing this program. I never thought that would be possible ever in my past. Right. So I don't know what you're doing this summer. If you're listening to this live, if there's anybody that you know that could be served by the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss program, please, we have a referral program. Please send this message out. There's so many human beings on this planet that need this right now. And they're not able to be with their families. They're not able to be present. They're not hitting their goals in their life because they're just addicted to these negative thoughts. It's not the food that we're addicted to. It's the negative thoughts about yourself. You need to start there. And if you're listening to this later on the podcast, you know what to do. Text the number that you're about to hear, and we'll keep bringing this content to you. Love you guys so much, and talk to you again soon. If you are serious about taking action on your struggle with food, body, and weight, then this is for you. Go ahead and text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483. Immediately after texting that number, you will get access to our free training that will tell you why you can't figure the food, body, and weight thing out, why you can't keep weight off even after you've been successful in the past, and how to actually overcome it, including a mini hypnosis session at the end. Don't miss out. Text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483.